Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today I'm going to be reading out lesson 29 to you from Ahsan al-Qawaid. Alhamdulillah, you have been learning a lot of rules in the Qaida, a lot of sounds in the Qaida. You've been learning about silent letters, you've been learning about joining letters, you've been learning about Shadda, Sukoon, you've been learning about Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra, and how Fatha Dhamma Kasra is read short unless you put an alif after a Fatha or a Ya Sakin after a Kasra or a Waw Sakin after a Dhamma. Obviously, in these circumstances, the Fatha Dhamma Kasra will become long because of those letters coming after it. Other than that, if you just get a Fatha or a Kasra or a Dhamma, it's going to be short. If you got a standing Fatha, standing Kasra, reverse Dhamma, or you can call it Khara Zabur, Khara Zer, Ulta Pesh, or some people just call it long Fatha, long Kasra, long Dhamma. In these situations, obviously, those kind of Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra are long. Okay, so long Fatha, long Kasra, long Dhamma, these are long. But other than that, all other Fatha, Kasra, Dhamma are short. Okay, here we're going to be learning a different set of rules, and those rules are to do with stopping. So while we're reading the Quran, it's very important to pause in a correct way and continue in a correct way. Now, how do we pause on a correct way? So say for example, we've got a long verse and we've run out of breath. So we're allowed to take a breath in between. But the thing is, whatever word we have stopped on, we have to pause and do waqf on it correctly and then read that same word again when we continue. Okay? So inshallah, when we come across longer ayat, I will demonstrate that to you. But for this lesson, I just want to say to you that the end of the sentence, right? Whatever letter is on the end of the sentence or wherever you're stopping, whichever letter you're stopping on will get a sukoon. The sound of the kasra, dhamma, fatha, whatever is on it will not be read anymore. Because you're pausing at the end of that word, you're not going to say whatever's on the last letter, you're going to read it with a sukoon. Let me read it to you and you'll realize. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Did you realize I didn't say me, I just said rajim, because that's how you pause. Okay, everywhere is going to be the same rule. The only difference is when there's a double fatha. In that situation, only one fatha drops off. Other than that, everywhere else, whenever you stop, the last letter will have a sukoon. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. See, I did a sukoon here. I did read it with a sukoon here, and I did a qalqala because there are 5 letters of qalqala: qaf, ta, ba, jim, dal. And whenever you do have a sukoon on those letters, there's going to be a slight bounce. So قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Okay, min khawf. See, I didn't say min khawfin because I'm pausing there. See that round circle? That's a pausing sign. Okay, that's like a full stop. So min khawf. Okay. وَجَنَّاتٍ أَلْفَافًا. Now, double fatha has a unique and separate rule. Okay. When you pause on a double fatha, okay, when the last letter has a double fatha, you're only going to drop one of the fathas off, okay, and then you're going to be left with one fatha and the alif. So it's going to be read like this: al-fa-fa, not al-fa-fan or al-faf. It's going to be al-fa-fa, and this is only with a double fatha. Okay, إذا حسد سكون, لما يريد سكون, بأصحاب الفيل سكون, أبي لهب وتب. This is slightly different from the others because one is you're stopping and you have to give the last letter a sukoon, isn't it? However, this last letter has a shadda. So what that means is you're going to pause on the beginning part of the shadda, watab, and the next part, because there's a qalqala, you're going to make a slight sound, watab. وتب أبي لهب وتب. Now this is happening because ba is a qalqala letter. Otherwise, you wouldn't have, you won't really have an extra sound after watab. But because this qalqala is going to be watab. Okay? Liman khashiya rabbah. Liman khashiya rabbah. Sukun. لتعجل به. Sukun. إنه كان توابا. It's the same rule like al-fa fa. When you stop on a double fatha, you drop one of the fathas off and you're going to be left with the alif after it, so it's going to be long. Tawaba wa shahidin wa mashhud. Sukun and qalqala. Minhum tuqah. Now we've come to another set of rules where if you've got a round ta at the end of a sentence, when you stop on it, you're going to change that ta into a ha. Now remember, this is only going to happen on a round ta, not a long ta. A round ta is, it looks like a ha. So if I have to take these two dots off, right, you're going to be left with a ha, isn't it? That's why when you stop on this kind of a ta, you're going to read it with a sukoon, and you're going to change it into a ha. So listen to how I read it. Minhum tuqah. Tuqah. Right? Now you might be thinking, oh, there's a double fatha there. What about the other rule? Well, that rule doesn't apply on a round ta. The round ta has its own rule. Okay? When you pause on it, you make it into a ha and you give it a sukoon. It doesn't matter what it has on it. Okay? Dhurriyatan tayyibah. See? Tayyibah. You're not allowed to say tayyibat or tayyibata. It's tayyibah. Okay? Next. أصحاب القرية سبع سماوات. سبع سماوات. This ta is a long ta. That's why you're not going to change it into a ha. You're going to leave it as a ta. And how would you know whether it's a long ta or a round ta? You know, whether you're supposed to change it into a ha or not? Just take the dot away. If after taking the dot away, it looks like a ha, then when you pause, you read it like a ha. But if it doesn't look like a ha, right? Once you take the dots away, if it doesn't look like a ha, then that means it's supposed to be read like a ta when you stop. Sab'a samawat. Mal aqabah. Ha. Fastabiqul khayrat. Keep it like a ta. Wayur bis sadaqat. Keep it like a ta, because these two are long tas. Because even if you have to take the dots away, they don't look like a ha. So when you stop on it, you're not going to read it like a ha, you're going to read it like a ta. But look at this one and this one. If I have to take the dots away from these two, they look like a ha, isn't it? That's why when I pause on them, I'm going to be reading it like a ha. Okay? Bilwadil muqaddasi tuwa. Yatba'uha adha. Now, you might be thinking that, why did I read it like a one alif length? Because there's no alif afterwards. Well, sometimes this will happen where you're going to have a double fatha on a letter, and after that, instead of an alif, there might be a ya there. Now, once you pause and stop on this word, on this sentence, right, how are you going to read it? Now, the thing about here is you're going to think of this ya like an alif, okay? And you're going to drop one of those fathas off and you're going to be left with tuwa. I know you say ya here, but I want you to think of it as an alif, okay? Because it's going to function like an alif here. Can you see it doesn't have anything on it, right? So, bilwadil muqaddasi tuwa. يتبعها أذى وَنِسَاءً. Now when there's a double fatha on a hamza, in most cases you won't have an alif or any letter after it. So in these situations you still have to read it long, but how would you do it? You see, normally you would drop one of those fathas off, but in this case, instead of dropping it off, you're just gonna bring it to the side and change it into an alif. Okay? If you find that hard to understand, it's okay. Just read correctly like this. وَنِسَاءً لَيْسُوا سَوَاءً أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. Whenever you come across a meme in the Quran, that means waqf lazim, you have to stop. Okay? So sometimes you will get circles like this, and sometimes you might get little letters like this. So each of these mean pausing. Okay? نار حامية كتب قيمة إلا هو. Remember, you're going to give the last letter a sukun, so that's going to become ha wa dhamma hu. إلا هو أعمالهم. Now from here you're going to learn that sometimes some words will already have a sukun at the end of them, which means there's nothing for you to change. You just keep it the same. So أعمالهم أوحى لها من دساها إذا صلى لشتى جنتي. So in all of these situations, there wasn't anything for you to change at the end of the sentence. That's why you're just going to keep it the same. Whether you join it with the next part or you stop on it, it doesn't make any difference. They're always going to sound the same. So أعمالهم أوحى لها من دساها إذا صلى لشتى جنتي. Now why this is happening is because the last letter already has a sukun, or the last letter isn't in a position to be given a sukun. Do you understand? And because of that, it's always going to stay the same. Next, إِذَا يَسْرُ. Now when you pause here, obviously the sin has a sukun and you're going to give the ra a sukun. So that doesn't mean that once you say yes, there shouldn't be any raw sound. No. Once you say إِذَا yes, there should be a bit of a raw sound there. يَسْرُ. إِذَا يَسْرُ. Okay? Next. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ حَتَّى مَطْلَعِ الْفَجْرِ. Now from here, you're going to be learning about a lam alif. Lam alif means it's better not to stop. So I want you to join from there and stop here. أبابيل ترميهم أفواجا فسبح والفجر وليال يومئذ واجفة أبصارها خاشعة كيدا وأكيد. Now, it doesn't mean that you always have to join. Sometimes when you have a lam alif on top of a round circle, it's okay for you to stop as well. Like this. فِي الْعُقَدِ وَالتِّينِ مَطَّارِقِ النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبِ. So in the Quran you will come across some words where they start off with a shadda. Now in all of these situations you will have a alif and a lam before that. So what you would do is you're going to give an imaginary fatha on top of the alif and joining onto the noon. An-najmu thaqib. Okay? If you had to join this with that, you won't say the alif anymore. It would just be طارق النجم الثاقب. But if you're not joining that with this part and you just want to say it from here, then you'll have to say it like this. النجم الثاقب. أمر سلام وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. ألف لام ميم. ألف لام ميم صاد. ألف لام را. ألف لام ميم را. كافها يا عين صاد. طه طاسيم ميم. طاسين. ياسين صاد. حميم عين سين قاف. قاف نون. So in these situations, you're going to say the letters just like you say them in the alphabet. The only difference is whichever letter has a mud sign on top, you're going to be stretching it extra long. And the letters that have a normal standing fatha, you're just going to stretch it one alif long. Okay, I hope the lesson made sense. May Allah Ta'ala make it easy on you, inshallah, for learning. And may Allah Ta'ala make it a source of benefit for you, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairum wa ahsan jazak. Please make dua for me, for my ustads, for my parents, for my, for all my students, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.